the SM Media Podcast Network. Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of SM Media's Cheltenham Countdown 2026. I'm Scott McPike. It's always a pleasure to be your host as always, and we are 4 weeks away from the biggest event in sport, and to preview what's coming up and kind of look back on probably the second but biggest kind of weekend before the festival. It is a pleasure to welcome Callum McClurkin from the Scottish Daily Mail. How are we?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, 4 weeks. Quite scary actually. Think of it. Yeah,
26 weeks.
everyone's final prep, and yeah, I mean it's definitely all materialising now. You're even getting your kind of preview nights coming out and
Yep.
your final stable tours. So yeah, I mean it's kind of really is kind of putting the bells and whistles to your Cheltenham plans.
Yeah, it probably is. Like this weekend upcoming is probably the last big weekend. Obviously, we've got the last Grade One. We've got a couple of big races at Haydock and Wincanton that give us slight clues. So, I would say this is the last massive weekend. There's good racing in Ireland as well that we'll learn. So probably the time you would want your horses to be having their last run is probably before the end of this weekend.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of now sneaking to get your final run in for a handicap probably now
Yeah.
territory really. Yeah, I think that's kind of where you're at. Kind of some late sleepers could come into pictures like the Ryanair and things. So potentially champion hurdle. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of rain about. And as we saw last weekend, you're getting a lot of winners that are very hard to weigh up because they're winning by miles. But are they winning by miles because they're the only ones that can handle the ground, or
Mm-hmm.
winning by miles because they're very very good horses, or is it a little bit of both? So yeah, it feels like a very open year going into Cheltenham, which is unusual. But it definitely makes it quite interesting from a betting perspective, being that kind of way. Certainly, Willie Mullins is not completely getting his own way, although he's definitely going to have a reasonably good enough Cheltenham. It's not all going his way as one would probably expect it to be.
Well, there are a few bits of news before we get into last weekend and our own kind of picks. We've both got a pick this week as well. We'll start with the one that I was kind of interested to get your thoughts on most of all was probably the news that came out about Philip Burns being cleared after deliberately jumping off Redwood Queen last summer at Wexford. Now the IHRB have come out and done their full investigation and they put the exit down to poor horsemanship on the part of the jockey. Callum, I think there's a lot of things to kind of look at here. I think, regardless of what the verdict would be, no matter what they found and what they looked into, this was going to be a bad look for the integrity of the sport.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think a lot of observers would probably go and see that, thinking that it's very soft, and there's a high likelihood there that he has jumped off. But the thing is, when it goes to like court proceedings and stuff like that, you've got to go and prove it, and it's a really hard thing to prove. I mean, and you're getting witness statements from jockeys who are quite quick to close ranks and just say, well, who are you to kind of really say what's going on here? And that's the kind of thing, when it goes into kind of legal territory, it's one thing saying something, it's a totally different thing proving it, and it's something that they can't really do. And it's been butchered from the start. The stewards didn't really do much at the start, and then that kind of undermines your opening argument because, well, if you thought this was happening, then why did you not ask questions at the start of it? And I think that's a real problem with stewarding, is that a lot of this stuff isn't dealt at so strongly enough, and then it kind of rumbles on. You can get your story straight in the background, and it goes on and on and on, and it gets harder and harder to prove. So yeah, it definitely does undermine the authorities in that regard. I think just probably in this day and age, your legal teams are better lawyers than prosecutors, particularly at this level. And there's a rule book there that is cherry ripe to be exposed. I mean, if you're not a jockey and not getting jockeys against them, there's not a lot you can do.
Well, the big problem I had, well, two big problems I had with it actually. They did bring up the thing that was going about at the time that was kind of up in the air, but it has been confirmed in this report that the BHA did report to the IHRB that there were suspicious betting patterns. I think there were three reports from the night till the morning, and the IHRB brushed it off. Now, Callum, I'm not saying Charles Burns or Philip Burns have done anything suspicious. They've been proven not to, right? But we can have our suspicions. Charles Burns, as we'll maybe get into later on, does have a knack of maybe campaigning certain horses not the way that other horses campaign, right? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying anything untoward there. He has been brought up about this before, this sort of thing. Why are the IHRB not following a report when the horse is 6 to 4 in the morning and drifting out to 13 to 2 and this happens? Why are they not looking into it? To me, that's incredible to me. I
Yeah,
know
but I
we've
mean, we had Pagan this week 2-7 go out to 11-8 over here and get beat. I mean, it
yeah, it
happens.
happens. I
This
know.
happens on a regular basis, but that was kind of looked far too brazen. And Charles Burns came out and said, like, basically, you're just doing this because a lot of people on social media have piped up about it. That is not any basis to form
No,
an investigation, and that's the problem. And once you go down that path, and be pretty humiliated, butcher it from the start, really. When are they going to do a similar one? I mean, they won't. They didn't find anything concrete. They didn't liaise with the BHA properly. I mean, I think that kind of program's been scrapped. So there's probably minimal resources to really look at the integrity-based thing of it now for them. And yeah, it's kind of open season. And if you've been around the block long enough and watched the game long enough and punters long enough, we all know this. What goes on in the background? I mean, you can kind of suspect who's going to plot it like this, who kind of does it like that. The betting patterns are. It doesn't take as much money anymore
no.
for that kind of drift to happen either now, or support coming in. So I just think now punters have kind of got to kind of basically kind of self police it themselves a little bit by not staking as much properly, just seeing a name there or colours there and just swerving the race. I mean, well, I don't like that again, but it's another thing that undermines the form book. But you kind of know the movers and shakers and how it kind of goes and how it's kind of brushed under the carpet or they look the other way. It's kind of just how the sport kind of operates really at the moment, and on the basis of that verdict in the case and how it all kind of fell apart and it seems very, very quickly, it's going to continue like that.
Mhm. The other thing as well you mentioned about jockeys giving a report. One of the jockeys that gave a report was Leighton Aspel, who basically said that Burns did not allow Redwood Green to run on its merits, but the referrals committee obviously didn't see it that way. The other jockey who gave evidence the other end was Davy Russell, who said that Burns was not guilty. Leighton Aspel works for the IHRB, and Davy Russell had some of his best days in the saddle with Charles Burns. How are you expecting those two to come to a neutral conclusion there?
Well, that's the problem when you can't have like integrity from the witness because there's obvious ulterior motives there. I mean, any jockey pretty much defends other jockeys, really. We all know that. And being a jockey is a very specific thing to do. You're not going to get random people off the street and
Yeah,
say, "Are you going to jump off that?"
I
Or I
just
mean,
think you can
and
find
have
better than
any
one.
idea of what it's about.
You can find one that doesn't work for the IHRB and doesn't have a relationship with Charles Burns. A lot of jockeys might have that, I understand that, but surely there's a case you can go and find two jockeys in the UK or elsewhere, and they've no association to either business or the trainer involved, and they come to give you a statement.
You need some sort of like kind of independent
Yeah,
panel or something, I mean, you see like refereeing decisions, don't they? When after it goes to
aye,
like 3-2 or 2-1 voted this way, like a key match incident panel or something. But fundamentally, at the end of the day, if you don't trust the stewards to make any sort of decision on the day about it, then you're completely undermined straight away. And this is what happened, even though they tried to kind of fast track this one through, and maybe that showed as well that they kind of rushed it and didn't really kind of think through witnesses like that. Because I mean, if you just come up with the HRB, the legal team against it's just going to say this is ridiculous. and it was. You know, and I mean, it's a kind of problem. But I mean, there's just there's just no confidence in having an objective opinion in the stewards room anymore about
No.
anything really. You see the whip referrals. I mean, even the whip stuff's not dealt in the day. That's palmed off to Tuesday. That's just counting the number of strikes in a horse. Anybody can count,
Mm.
and they can't even do that in a day. So I really don't see I don't see why keep throwing money at it if they don't do much. Oh, your horse is wearing the wrong hood in the paddock. We'll fine you £500 for that. It's nonsense.
Mhm. Aye, I don't think it's a good look.
Totally ineffective.
Yeah, there's a lot of. Again, we can't argue the fact that Philip Burns has said that there is because look at watch his back,
Absolutely
watch his
not.
back.
Legally, you can't disprove it. You can
But
have an inkling. You can have a strong feeling
he
about it.
jumped perfect up until the last. Like he jumped like, and then the
Everyone,
last.
and Philip Burns is not a bad jockey.
No, no,
Everyone knows that as well. On
it's
that day he was. Um, but if you look 1,000 races over and over again, that was bad.
yeah,
Again, and again, I think the fact that I don't think many people had any sort of degree in confidence that this would succeed
no, no.
says a lot about a process that simply isn't fit for purpose.
Yeah, well, let's move on. A couple of other bits of news. We'll go with the one that we didn't cover last week. That probably was quite a big story. Coral have announced that they are no longer going to be continuing the sponsorship with the Coral Cup. They've been the longest running sponsor at the festival since 1974. Basically, in a statement, they said the sheer size of the government recent tax increase in betting operators means we're having to take very difficult decisions as we look to mitigate some of the huge impact. None more regrettable than bringing our sponsorship at Cheltenham to an end. Now, it's not entirely surprising that this has happened, but it's again something that was warned and we were told to expect by certain bookmakers. It's just bookmakers are going to have to make some cuts, and racing isn't as important as it was when in 1974 for them anymore.
I mean, it's not as important as their kind of like overall model really now. But this is hot off the heels of the budget, which is
Mm-hmm.
coming into effect 2026. So they've kind of done it, well, late end of 2026. So they've kind of done this here for kind of maximum impact to alert the industry really of what their predicament is and try and understand how much these budgetary changes are going to whack their business. And stuff like ambassadorships and sponsorships, these are the things that are going to be up to be cut. And racing has a lot of that. William Hill's closing a lot of shops in the summer by the looks of it. Coral pulling back that sponsorship. They sponsor the Scottish Garnacha, for instance, they sponsor the Eclipse. So they do have plenty of other ones as well. They're also part of Entain, so the Ladbrokes, and Ladbrokes have punched us down this season. They sponsor a lot of the King George.
Mm-hmm.
Could they cut back? Possibly. Their Gold Cup, Ladbrokes. So yeah, I mean that's the kind of thing now, and that easy kind of online pound that racing has been content to take for quite some time is no longer really there because they've prioritised the slots are going to change at 21 to 40%. So I mean that's a big hike, but it's still they still see that as more profitable, but it'll just go away from regular sports. So yeah, it's a predicament. They're looking at their business and they're making cutbacks like a lot of places are doing in the economy, and race courses have to be wise for it, and they have to look at alternative sponsorship methods. And Cheltenham have got a. I'm sure there won't be shortage of play. It's Cheltenham Festival, so I mean, some of them will probably come in for the old Coral Cup and get there in time. So, but it's not something you want to be seeing 2 months out of a major festival if you've got scrambling about trying to get sponsors and trying to pay for things and fill up hospitality. And don't think ticket sales at festival are that strong either this year. So
Doesn't look like it, no.
although it'll still be reasonably popular, but I mean it's not as high and strong as it was. So yeah, there's a lot to kind of mull over PR wise for racing. And racing get their own kind of carve out, but I mean again, I think they need to kind of race and betting still mutually exclusive. I think they need to kind of definitely after that kind of government AXA racing tax thing, them getting the deal, bookies largely not. They're not happy. I think we need to kind of understand that you can't keep, the media rights as well. You just can't keep whacking them with
No.
costs and charges and streaming charges on top of it. So, and expect them to kind of keep the status quo with sponsorship. So, yeah, there's a few bridges that need to be built there.
Well, let's get into the other bit of news. Obviously, we had the entries for the Grand National coming out during last week. 78 horses declared down from 90 in the previous year. Ireland is responsible for 49 of the 78 entries. Willie Mullins is 15 and Gordon Elliott has 12. Carl, I wanted to get thoughts. Obviously, we're a Cheltenham show, but obviously entries are a massive part of the jump season.
Mm-hmm.
78 horses for a Grand National is, I think, pretty woeful, to be honest.
Yeah, you usually get kind of hundreds, don't you? Well, just below maybe 100. Yeah, and Paul Nicholls didn't enter any, and he could have came out
Yes.
and said, "Well, I don't have a national horse for it." So it's a bit of a problem. But he had like 4 or 5 last year, so I mean, it's just a harder race to get into. So I don't think a lot of people bother entering now, because you need at least a 145 horse to have a chance of getting in. And a lot of them are stockpiled at kind of Close Sutton and Northern Elliott, really.
Do
So
you
I
think it
mean,
has becoming a bit of a closed shop? That's what I was kind of going to ask. Like,
becoming a kind of it's shapes like a kind of Gold Cup light, really, nowadays.
aye,
You
it's
know,
not the jumping
it's
test it used to be. Like,
not a test it used to be. Carrying weight doesn't matter because they don't go fast enough anymore. They just kind of lob around for 4 miles and dash up the elbow, really. And it's a race now that just back class comes to the fore. Uriah Maximus, Nick Rocket winning it off really big weights. Horses that would probably be third or fourth in the Gold Cup in some years. I mean, even Manila Indo was kind of with a little bit. Even Delta Work went close off big weights and horses that are just maybe fractionally too old to win a Gold Cup still come here and go close off like 170 and
well,
things like that.
we did have a thing last year where the eventual winner of the Gold Cup was actually hot favourite for this.
Yeah, I know the way you're
Like,
thinking. Yeah, and you look at kind of horses like Gap and Deschamps now, and you're thinking, would you rather kind of
yeah,
go in a Grand National a little bit? It's just a bit longer for you, a bit slower. I mean, that at 10, 11, you could do it. I mean, yeah, I mean, even before that, there was signs of it, though. I mean, the cross country was seen as a very good prep for it. Yeah, and it's hard now because it's really hard for British horses to kind of get in. Um, and then the thing is, sometimes you just get these kind of 9, 10-year-olds that just kind of sit there in high 150s and pretty exposed, and they just kind of make up the numbers, really.
mm-hmm.
I mean, Gordon Elliott, Higginstown, I think I've like 6 or 7 of these kind of horses. I mean, but yeah, there was. You look at the nationals, and you kind of look through it, and there wasn't really much kind of screaming out to me. I mean, I do think Monty Starr's a fascinating one. I do think he's been a kind of good 25, 28 to 1 kind of project for it for some time. Aroko's gone up a little bit by correlation because Firefox ran quite well in the Irish Gold Cup. So I mean,
I think we'll get weights next week.
he's been mapped out of it. I think that might be a bit early, but yeah, possibly because we've got the Grand National trial this weekend.
This weekend, yeah, which
It's
none of them will get in.
normally quickly in the back. Well, if Maertine run there and hacked up, I mean, I think he's possibly running at Kelso, but he'd need to run. He'd need to like win well to
Yeah,
get in now. So I mean, it's kind of funny aspect of it, and it's like. Apart from like Welsh national winners like carrying performances like Hoti Kalur, it's difficult for like a Scottish national winner to get in. Captain Cody would be borderline, I mean, and that would probably be one of your classier Scottish national winners. So yeah, the fact that the regional nationals, the trials, they really kind of struggle to get in. Even winners of Beechers would definitely struggle to get in. It's it's a bit unsatisfactory in that regard. But this is what it is now. Modern national. It's definitely safer. I think there's a few less runners in it now as well. the tempo's slower, it's a bit more relaxed, and it's weight carrying class performances that now come to the fore in these contests.
Yeah, as you say, it's more of a kind of like Gold Cup light, but it is more the jockey.
It's
Obviously,
like a Grade Two Gold Cup to me.
it is, and it's more like we've made the fences shorter, which again, like animal wise, totally understand, but it's not the Grand National I grew up watching. Where like again, Cheltenham was the one you always look forward to, but Grand National was what it was. But go back to like early 2000s and kind of mid 2000s, like you've got horses winning like 100 to 1, like that's like it carrying bottom weight. That's never going to happen again. Like it's not
Yeah, unless it's
possible.
maybe a bog or
Yeah.
you've got one that's extremely well handicapped. But again, like even in fact, if iffy jumpers now can kind of win this. I mean, I am Maximus when he first went around and he hated it,
Mm-hmm.
came out and won, and looks an absolute natural now. So think things like that can happen. You still get good kind of when Corrick Ramler won it, he was very well handicapped and well mapped out for it. Um, One for Arthur as well. So
We've got the five winners between 2011 and 2015, 2016. Take away Paul Nicholls, Donald McCain, Sue Smith, Richard Newland, Oliver Sherwood, and Mouse Morris. You're not
yeah,
seeing them winning a national now, are you? Like,
really unlikely they're going to
mm,
get a horse to get into it. You
yeah,
know, they
yeah.
probably could train one, but gone are the days that you can just get in off 140 and take your chance. You know, it's not like that anymore. And even if you've got like historical dodgy jumping issues, they can take you out. So I mean, yeah, it's going to be very difficult going unless you kind of get one of these kind of 150, 157 horse cast off to you, and you can creep in at the bottom eventually. But yeah, it's going to be very tough. But that's a modern day trade off now of Grand Nationals. Just have to kind of accept it.
Well, let's get to what happened at the weekend. We're going to do three performances each in a second, but we'll start with the game spirit. We did obviously get a big Cheltenham clue with Lulamba winning that at 4-11. Wasn't as easy as what we kind of thought and hoped it would be. Won by 6.5 lengths. There was a couple of things we can talk about, Callum, but 5-4 now for the Arkle. Has he went up in your estimations, or has he not moved?
He's absolutely gone up again. No,
Okay,
this is a superb horse. Superb horse.
okay.
Um, He'd no business going off 4-11. Going up to open company as a novice is hard, and it's a lot harder than people give credit for. Since he had to give Saint Seagal £2, and he's off 157. Saint Seagal's off 155. It's much more experience than him. It's probably more of an actual 2 miler, and was given a far better ride in the day. You know, in prominent, you know, he was out the back. You know, if something got away from him, he would have been in a lot of trouble. Tucked away in on horrible ground. I mean, he was kind of asking for trouble early doors. So he would have learnt a hell of a lot from it. And, you know, eventually kind of mastered them. And from second last to the line, he's looked really good. His class is kind of going through and he stamped his authority on it. He's been, he was spinning a little bit in the ground, I thought. I don't think he wants it as bottomless in that. But again, his ability got him through it. Um, Yeah, it's the best novice chasing performance this season by a long way. Open company's hard. I didn't even back him. I mean, when I see him going, he should have been like a 46 chance, really, there. 4-11, and he get hammered in bad ground 4 weeks in front of an Arkle. That takes some confidence to do that. It really does. Liberty Hunter was no back marking a champion chase last year. A couple of years ago, and he shaped with with a lot of credit, and I think he was in third. So I mean, he beat the right ones home as well. He beat them pretty easily. There's just a lot of Altion Shishkin came through like that. There's a lot of them about him already. Yeah, he might not be an actual slick, quick 2 miler, but he jumps cleverly enough to get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't land on all fours. He always lands running.
Mm-hmm.
And you think that he's a bit clumsy and tight and a bit cumbersome, but he doesn't lose that much in the air, and he gets from one side to the other quickly enough, and steeps away. And he must have a serious engine to get home like that from 2 out to there as well. He finally mastered it and then just whooshes away. Bit like with, I mean, Altior kind of when he won his Arkle, he hit a kind of wee flat spot in that little Shishkin coming down the hill a little bit. You're thinking, oh, what are you going to do here? Then you just power away. I can see him doing something similar.
Yeah,
You think mid race, you're thinking you're in a bit of trouble here.
well, that's what I was going to say. So I'm
Tempo
going to
kicks in and he
I'm
gets
going
out
to
of it.
come across as negative here, but I don't think I am. Like, I don't think I'm trying to be. I'm going to ask you a few questions about it. Jumping wise, the Arkle's a different test, obviously, with the more fences. We are hearing reports over the week that Kopek the board is apparently schooling like the next generation of the tour. Would you worry that a horse like Kopek the board would outjump him and put his jumping under pressure?
Well, I mean, the pace of the race, the early doors, the first mile, you think, and he's not the only one that's going to do that. And Kyrgyz is going to go out and do that. There's going to be your slick horses are going to try and go out and try and exploit that chink in the armour. Um, it might well be, particularly if he's given that kind of similar ride again, where he's a bit too far back. He could niggle away at one. He could hit one that's a little bit too big, and that might knock him back further. And he would ultimately go up to Grade One. I just think he's clever enough to overcome that, probably. Um, yeah, the thing is, that was a big effort and bad ground 4 weeks before a Cheltenham festival. It also got struck into, and I know it was a superficial cut, but it was like a pool of blood in the winners' enclosure, and nobody really saying anything about it and going, "Is that horse kind of all right? It's bleeding, It's like, is anyone going to say anything? They're like all talking around it while the blood comes down their ankles. It's like I thought it was a bit wild, but it did look a nasty gash. But I mean, you've got to kind of clean that up quickly as well. In 4 weeks, it didn't affect his performance, obviously, so it probably is a superficial thing. But you'd want to see a positive update on that. And Kopek the board, it's kind of an unknown, how good he can be. We always obviously know from the Supreme how good he is, but he missed an intended engagement in the Irish Arkle. You're hearing a lot of questionable hyperbole around schooling and stuff like that, which I'm naturally sceptical of. The louder they shout, the more I'm kind of not good. So I would say, put it this way, Kopek the board's inexperience would be more of a concern than the Lambas, even though he jumps quicker, because I mean he could just crash into one. I mean he, to go in there in an Arkle after just one run where he was pretty hot headed. Good luck getting up that hill or fences, and if you smash into one, you'd be in trouble.
Well, I'm going to be quite disrespectful to other horses in the race, but I think the story of this race is: are you backing a horse that's had one run over fences, who has missed a bit of time, or are you backing a 5-year-old to win this race without the weight for the first time since 2007?
No, I would rather
And you
back
can go.
Lulamba. I mean, I've been on Lulamba all season, so I don't see any reason to switch. But the thing is, I wouldn't bet now because you've got one that's participation might be in doubt, and you've got one who's just had a kind of big race, big effort
Do
there.
you think
Four
it gets
weeks.
off bigger than 11 to 8? Because that was another thing I was going to ask. Like,
I
I
wouldn't. It wouldn't surprise me if one of them didn't turn up for some reason.
okay. And the kind of final question, but more in terms of what after Cheltenham, Altior and Shishkin, I feel as if when Nicky Henderson they went up and tracked too late. I don't think they'll do that with us. I think they maybe be unfortunate now because I think the plan would have originally been we've got Sergino for the champion chase next season. We'll just go a bit further with this guy next year. They might change that and maybe just keep this boy over 2 miles until they get to the point where they can't. But I think you could go up and trip him. I wouldn't be surprised if this boy's a King George player next year.
Yeah, it depends what you want to do. 5 going into 6, you want to kind of give him an easy season and maybe even just have a soft Ryanair or just mid prep, or do you kind of? If he wins an Arca well, you tend to kind of stick to 2 miles till we get beat. Like they did with kind of Altior and Shishkin. That's
Mm-hmm.
why they went late because they were still very high. John Bon as well to a degree. I mean, it's a division where if he's doing that in open company at the age of 5, he's going to do it again, isn't he? So you're kind of looking at going, do we really need to go
Mm-hmm.
to trip at the moment? So yeah, I don't see much incentive at the moment, and he's certainly young enough to kind of just stick to what he's doing. A bit like Maswell, I think his future. He's a champion chase favourite. I think his future's over further.
Mhm.
Um, these are young enough horses where you can kind of have time on your side to kind of point and shoot where you want to go. And you can try it later. Romeo Coolio as well is coming the crazy. He's a bit like Lulamba. I think he's a safe jumper. You know, he's efficient and safe, rather than kind of flashy and quick. But they're definitely the two best ones at the moment. And a Lulamba performance like that could push Romeo Coolio to the Browns all of a sudden.
Ah, well, he's now,
All
yeah.
of a sudden that might look much more winnable. So got all these moving parts, and to be honest, it's fascinating to monitor. But I wouldn't comprehend having a bet in the Arkle or the Browns at the moment. You know, I think it's something that you can really wait closer to the time.
Yeah, I think so. I think I've got a couple of bets on Lulamba that I've kind of done through the year, but I don't think I would be going back in at 11 to 8 just because I think the race. I think I can see a world where Copac de Board just gets absolutely smashed
Well, that's the thing. I
night
think I
and night.
think you could probably see a lot of kind of market moves. It's probably going to tell you what's going to happen, what shape Copac the board would be in. You know, we saw it before Leopardstown where he went massively out to kind of a borderline tempting Ante-Post price, and people get their fingers burnt because he ultimately didn't make it. So you're usually going to get clues in the weekend behind. You know, if he comes back out again, you'll be going, oh no, despite him working the house down.
Well, let's get into our three performances each. Cam, do you want to start? What was your best performance that wasn't Lulamba over the past week?
I thought Dino Blue was ominously good,
Yeah.
putting Bioluminescence away by 11 lengths. Same prep as last year, now 64 favourite for the Mares Chase. Main market rival Spindleberry kind of struggled in the Irish Gold Cup a little bit. Don't know if she's had a sour experience in that, kind of snapped a kind of winning run of kind of easiness. Um, and now all of a sudden, while the Mares Chasers, 4 or 5 credible rivals in
Does
behind,
look a good race, yeah.
she's the one that's still at the top of the market, defending champion. And a reminder that she's a very high class mid 150s, high 150s horse, and it's a high bar to beat her.
Yeah, I mean, she's 64. I think Lily Mullins probably went in, well, a wee look, have I told you so about Spindleberry after the Irish Gold Cup? And
Yeah,
I don't know if it's just spent her season because I think
probably.
she was usually you want, and usually Dino Blue can be beat by an improver or beat on the ground. I think if it's bottomless ground, it brings a couple of horses into this. Wouldn't rule out Diva Luna as well for this.
Yeah, she misses Silly Isles with a setback, then you're kind of parachuting her into a proper
Mm,
grade two. I think it'll be tough for her now. Tens, short
July
enough.
Flower
I,
as
I, I
well.
think I think Panic Attack's a danger. The
Could be.
skeletons. She's winning, taking out big handicaps easily. Had a King George entry and keeps improving, and that her mark is certainly still underestimating her.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's a threat, but it's just how these, like last year when I just thought she was an absolute banker. It's just the way she's campaigned. She's just campaigned to just peak for this now, and you can kind of set her watch by it. And to me, that was another obvious step up again. And if she does it again, you know, she's going to be very hard to beat. If 64 is not appealing, and there's some more interesting kind of rivals this year. But you know, she's just knocked a mid 140s horse who had the optimum ground conditions absolutely sideways here, easily. So I mean, she's still age of 9, still very much at the top of her game. She's liable to belt one better ground. I think soft ground would play to her strengths, like it did last year. And remember at Punchestown, where she won by 60 odd. You know, I mean, okay, it fell apart, but I mean, you can only do what you're doing, and that's what she's like. I mean, she'd be third in a champion chase, wouldn't she? She's that kind of decently underrated.
Well, let's get in. We'll stick with Nace for the next one because we had the famous opening race, the hurdle that produces Boodles winners and Boodles contenders. Highland Crystal won it. We had Saratoga, Moonsafe, Kelmadine, and Genealogy. What do you think wins the Boodles from this race?
None of them. Ben Hur wins it for no mead. I don't know.
Saratoga's obviously been punted, and
That
again,
was the obvious one, wasn't it?
and I don't know because I think again we mentioned Charles Burns at the start of the show. I think Charles Burns is probably doing laps of his kitchen, delighted with how far because he's got Munsif
Well, the third is.
9 lengths back. I'm trying to work out what they'll give Saratoga. I don't think Saratoga's going to be brilliantly handicapped for this. Now, like,
I mean, there's no point in playing now at 5-1 because you don't know what the
yeah,
Irish handicap, you don't know what the British handicapper's going to do. I mean, one of these days, the British handicapper's just going to stick two fingers up at you
well, we'll get into that
and have a
in a
social
couple
media
of.
account
We'll get into that in a couple of minutes. Yeah.
and say no. You know, I'll stick you up 10. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's getting to that kind of point. So I think that's the kind of danger of these horses. The winner's had to give a £7 penalty away in the
She's
mayor.
good. I don't think she'd be out of place in a Triumph Hurdle. I think she's
And
ideal
she's
for a
a
2.5 at the Fairy House.
and she's a gradual improver and meant to run at Doncaster, meant to be kind of campaigned a bit like Woodhoo
Mm-hmm.
was. So just kind of wins with it minimal fuss, and she's been a bit underrated. Did hang right
I think
for
she's better right-handed. Yeah.
for pressure there a little bit. Wouldn't be a massive concern at this stage. That just might be a quirk rather than anything, and maybe not like being in front for so long. I think she kind of remember in her debut. I think her second run she was a lot better in behind runners, and you're likely to be in behind runners in a competitive Fred Winter. But yeah, I mean, you could take anything that you like out of it. To me, Saratoga Gamble. I think if you've missed the boat, you've now missed the boat. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I think the boat's sailed off into the sunset, come round Arran 5 times, and sailed off again. You know, it's that far. It's been that far missed. 5-1 wouldn't interest me. The same trainer mapped out Brazil quite well to beat Gaelic Warrior in it, so you know he's capable, even though he's probably one of the kind of names that are probably further down the GP McManus obvious plot trainer list. But yeah, he's there on the list. Probably Mark Walsh's pick, you'd imagine. Um,
He's riding with a bit of purpose into Mark Walsh. He's
Yeah,
completely
and
turned a
you know,
corner.
look at the book of Rising getting. He could conceivably be top jockey of this festival.
Mm-hmm.
Got a lot of clear cut chances. But yeah, I mean now what 5-1 now? You can forget it really, can't you?
Yeah, it's not what again. It's one of my kind of strongest Ante-Post plays privately, and I'm not even remotely excited about it just because when everybody jumps onto a plot, it just doesn't become a plot. Like it just
Tend to
becomes
get beat when that
aye,
happens.
and again, as we'll say, we'll probably get into one in a minute where I just think it's clear as day what's going to happen. But we'll get into your second performance, which are the one that caught your eye.
Yeah, Sober Glory was good,
Yes.
and a lot of shrews are putting them up each way for Supreme. You can see why now. You know, BHE Mark now 148, winning by 27 lengths there. The only blip was when he was up in grades. That just wasn't his true running at all. I mean, Hurricane Pat beat him. So if you forgive that, he's bang there, and he would probably be in and around El Cairo's territory price wise if it wasn't for that.
I think if
Yeah, I
the
mean,
rule wasn't in place, it'd be quite high in the betting for County Hurdle.
yeah, I mean the thing is, I mean, he's now 148. Like that is a mark that's going to get you right in the shake up of a Supreme normally.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a bit. I think these novices are a bit flattered. So I mean, he's not that high in my estimation, but he's definitely still up there in figures. He's an each way chance. The one doubt is that when he did go missing was when he was up in grade, and I wonder if he wants to kind of in all these races. I think he can look good in the background. I know it's reasonably fresh, but you know you're putting away horses that you're expecting to put away all the time, and you're doing it just more and more impressively. But they're just going to give you more of a kind of you're going to be able to dictate the race and what you're going to do, and he was able to do it again. The chances of him being able to do that in a Supreme are very remote, and it's a completely different test. So I think his lack of grade one, grade two, any graded form really does count against him a little bit because you're kind of doubting. Well, once you're actually in a real race, you're not really doing anything. But that's only one. That could just be a blip, and that could be nothing. So he's a hard one to weigh up in that regard. Can I see myself backing? Probably not.
No, I think it's a good horse. As I say, I think if that nonsense five run for a handicap rule wasn't in place, I think he'd be a real solid player in a county hurdle. I think he might be a player after
In defence of that
after.
rule, though, you'd rather see horses like that running a Supreme
Yeah,
than a county because he should be running a
probably.
Supreme.
Yeah, definitely. But I think like, in a like 3 or 4 years ago, I think he would have went there, and I think he would have had a serious chance. Speaking of handicap rules and potential handicap plots, I'm going to go for the race at Navan on Sunday, which was won by Oscar's brother. Very impressive performance. Brilliant story, actually, this with the Kings, because he's one of only two horses in the yard, bought initially for 8 grand and then sold to JP, and is now
Mm.
a serious player, not only if they do decide to go for a Brown advisory, but he's quite high in seems to be the plan that they're going Grand National, and I do really like this horse. I think he would probably need a bit of soft ground
He does.
to compete in a Brown advisory, but I think he's a national player.
Yeah, he'll need soft ground in Grand National as well.
Mhm.
I think that's what they're leaning for, and it's hard to kind of go to a Browns and then go to a Grand National. Yeah, but I mean that was a kind of bona fide borderline 150 effort, wasn't it? I
Yeah, I
mean
thought it was
that was
really good. Yeah.
seriously good performance. Yeah, and he'd be interested wherever he rocked up. We're just not quite sure. Don't think Cheltenham seems to be on their radar, so I think it is kind of Grand National where they need to get a run in it somewhere. Maybe home at Fairyhouse or something like that instead of Cheltenham. But he's one to monitor. He keeps improving. His form's working out pretty well. But yeah, soft ground's pretty important to him.
Well, we'll stick with this race because the horse that was in second, the Wool Park, was beaten 6 lengths. He was in this race off 143. Thought ran pretty well to the line and has been dropped a pound to 142.
Yeah, handicap is going to stick him up to 147 or something over here,
I
and he's
think
not
I
going to
think
get
he just
into the
sticks
national
one.
hunt chase, is he?
I think if he doesn't stick him to 146, I think it's particularly dangerous because how can you drop him a pound for that? And we know he goes at Cheltenham, graded form over hurdles. How on earth can he run over 145?
Yeah, he jumped a little better and hit the line better. It's kind of coming to fruition, and maybe he showed a little bit too much. But I mean, it's just incredibly hard now for horses that are campaigning like this. They're not missed on social media. They're not missed by anybody. They keep being put up every single hour. They shorten dramatically, and the British handicapper's just probably now going to spot it, and he's not going to get in. I think it's simple as that. And when people keep talking and talking, if you keep talking and talking about him, it's less likely he's going to get
Well,
in.
if it got, let's say just for devil's advocate, getting off 145, right? I don't think he would go Kim Muir because I think Jericho Derepine would be the plan
National
here.
Hunt Chase,
Do you think he's
Cornelius.
a banker in that? Because I don't
No,
think he's
that
that,
seems a
like
good race.
I know the way you're thinking was quite fascinating because he was a novice that clearly had more to come. I don't think the Woolpark's ever going to win a Gold Cup.
The thing is, who knows how good he really is he?
Yeah,
I mean, that's
but
the thing,
we
and that's
kind of know
that's
his level over hurdles. I don't think he's going to improve that much for fences.
yeah, you don't really need to be a Gold Cup horse to kind of definitely go and win that. I mean, you've seen Haiti Calor go quite close. I mean, to that kind of standard. So, I mean, I think this kind of stuff's just pretty tedious, and I'm not interested. And I'm even less interested. What price is he?
Well, you 5-1 in places for the National Hunt Chase. The other thing is though that if you take away the terrible Irish record in Ultima, if they go Ultima, he's well handicapped.
I mean, the trainer's going national chase because he needs that trip, doesn't he? So, I mean, he's not going to get in.
I think he's
I've got
Irish national
better.
written all over him.
I've got better things to worry about in my life than that.
Right, third performance, Callum. What caught your eye?
I had to say horticulture. I mean, I thought he jumped really well, and like 7-8 to 1 for Gold Cup's a bit short, but that was a nice prep for him for sure. Jumped quite nicely. Um, okay, the quick turnaround I think was against Lone Press. I don't think he kind of ran his kind of true race, maybe £10 below his best, but the winner just try for you all the time, gallops all day for you, jumps well, efficient, and yeah, really honest and hardy, and kind of a real old fashioned chaser, in the way that Native River was. And I'm not saying that he's going to win the Gold Cup, but he's got an each way chance at it. But he does have a bit to find, but he could find it because he's that honest and hardy that he
Well,
might.
could they
But
find it because I think, well, looking at the race, like, is he the one that makes the running?
it could be he's going to be handy, isn't he? He's going to be
Yeah.
handy. Galloping Deschamps probably after the Fury goes forward. I think there'll be enough speed on. I do think is he going to travel kind of kindly enough to kind of go there? And he had a blip at Haydock, didn't he, where he was up to kind of genuine Grade One territory where he didn't fire, but
Hmm.
probably down to the track more than
Yeah, I
anything
think so.
else. I would like to see a horse like that win it,
Mhm.
but I think people are wanting him to win it rather than expecting him to win it, and I don't think he's an 8-1 chance. I think he should be kind of double that, really. In truth, he might come out today, but I think there's kind of a soft spot for this horse that makes him a little bit too short.
Yeah, I don't think he's a short price 8-1, but I do think there's a world where I don't think it would be native forever where he just goes and nothing else can get to him. But I think there's a world where he's definitely in contention and puts a lot of horses under pressure. So he might be a player, but again, I think it
He's like
might.
an old fashioned one. He's like kind of like
Yeah,
a Lord Windermere kind of
mm,
winner kind of thing. An
yeah,
old, like, you know, if it was 15, 20 years ago, Connie Greedy, 10 years ago, I mean, he'd be kind of really high on your list.
no, yeah.
These days, maybe not so much.
Yeah, so I think he's a player though, and again, it's good to see obviously Rebecca Curtis having a big horse like that. Final performance, I'm kind of torn between two. We'll maybe cover both of them. Tutti Quanti
Yeah.
was good in the William Hill Hurdle. I think this race has completely lost its way. Like it's Let It Rains obviously was as much of a hype horse as it got, but this horse just obviously clearly was the one well handicapped, completely made all, nothing could live with him, and I think only six horses finished. It's a race that's just it used to be a really good kind of prep for a supreme like Al Dancer won it, Bally Kalashnikov. Like that's not the case now. It's a kind of race that's lost its way completely.
And the ground didn't help him the day, did it
No.
really? But I mean, this was six in the Supreme last year, really well punted, and Paul Nichols didn't really kind of hide the fact that they were quite confident in this. And I only backed him really in the account that he would definitely handle the ground. I mean, I think the third the Twist and Davis horse in third is a future, but it was just too attritional for him as
Yeah.
well. You know, we've won it by 6 wickets. I'll talk about supplementing the champion hurdle.
I think he's entered the champion hurdle.
I don't think he's got much of a chance in the champion
Nah, I
hurdle.
think it would need to fall apart. Like he's
It
kind
would
of
need
there,
to
but
be.
Alexei mold, isn't
It would need to be bottomless ground.
he?
It would need to be similar ground conditions, and you know, I always have the kind of back to like Manila Yoga, for instance. He would have been so far mapped out for that and primed to win that you then kind of coax into thinking that there's more improvement there than there actually is. Um, so yeah, I mean, he's been bumped up to kind of mid 150s now. You like 13, 14 a whack for that. Probably keep him for maybe too high actually now to actually kind of try that kind of like Sandown Imperial Cup kind of stuff now. But
Yeah.
so you might be forced into kind of graded company sooner rather than later. Maybe give him a spin at Aintree and see, because you can get a week 2 mile there, can't you? You know, and he looks like he would get maybe a wee bit further as well. So interested what to do with him. I think it was kind of mainly down to him handling the ground, optimum conditions. It was really cutting up by then as well, and he was really in a position to dominate where he didn't really need to kind of come off the bridle and had everyone up
Nah.
at it. It was still a smart performance, and he was definitely well in, and he was backed accordingly. And that those colours there, the owner's a fair punter, I'd say as well.
Yeah, £13 he's got for that. He's entered in the more battle on Saturday. I don't think Saturday the 28th. I don't know if that's maybe where they'll go with him, but we'll see what happens. The other horse I wanted to mention, Callum, was Active Innocence, who I thought was pretty good. I I think he would need to find a bit more to win the turners, but he's definitely a player. Do you have him in your mind for the turners?
Possibly, unlikely, but possibly. I mean, he's one of 6 or 7 there that's kind of on that kind of market on the edges of it. And if you think No Drama This End isn't what, so you don't kind of really opt into that massive hype yet, it's a really open division. Maybe a lot will come down from the Supreme to take their chance in it. Um, yeah, I mean, he did it fine. It wasn't particularly flashy. Don't think he's on the level of his stablemate Old Park Star at all, but he stepped up from his Manila Yoga reversal. Not convinced he'd be the strongest stayer at the trip, 2 mile 5. If they do go a tempo, no, they don't. They kind of, it's a bit more sedate, but he's definitely on the periphery of it. 12, 14, something like that. I mean, that kind of sums up his chance, really, I would think.
Yeah, well, we'll go into what's happening this weekend. We'll have our selections on Saturday and Sunday. We're just going to preview some of the big races over the weekend. We'll start obviously with the final Grade One, the Ascot Chase at 3:35 on Saturday. John Bon going here 8 to 15. Pic Dory obviously has won this several times. The trainers obviously got a really good record in this at 9 to 4. Edward Stone 8 to 1, 33 to 1 bar. They're deciding to go with John Bond for this. They did it with Shishkin before he went to a Ryanair and get beat. Does John gently the right price?
Yeah, I mean, he's a better horse than Pic Dory, isn't he?
Yeah,
Pic Dory, the last couple of times at Ascot, he was put in his place by Jangle Bay, Gidley Park, pretty emphatically. Maybe left that race behind a little bit at Weatherby when he was behind Jello in the Charlie Hall. But he's won this the last twice, and again, the way Paul Nicholls' yard are going, he's only £4 off John Bond. John Bond's stepping up and tripping to kind of a bit newer territory. We know he can get 2.5. We got 2.5 at Aintree pretty well where he won. Beat Conflated by 1.5. Protectorat in third. So we know he can definitely handle this. And he looked pretty good. Last day, 2 mile one at Ascot, where soft ground where he could have picked up Thistle Ask and won. That was a hard enough race. He's coming back after that for 4 weeks, so it's a bit of a sharp turnaround from a race like that. So you can see why Pic Dory would have his backers. Price looks about right. Does it make much betting appeal? Not particularly, no.
no, it's one of those to watch. Again, John Bond. Kind of would like to see a world where Gaelic Warrior and John Bond go at it in a Ryanair because I think that is probably what's going to happen.
Oh, Gaelic Warrior would beat him, wouldn't he?
Think so?
Yeah.
Okay, I do think I think it's more and more likely if they are going back to file for the Gold Cup. I think Gaelic Warrior will reroute to Thursday because I think Paul Townend will want to ride Gaelic Warrior and Galloping the Champs, and I don't he's not coming off Galloping the Champs. And John Bond, I think, is probably the most likely challenger if they do go. So interesting. There's maybe another one that we'll maybe touch on as well in a couple of minutes who might be a player in that race. Haydock, we've got the Rendlesham Hurdle. Cabral de Matan seems to be coming here now as opposed to the original plan was the National Spirit. He's 4 to 6. Dodie the Great's 5 to 1. They don't really know what they're doing with Cabral de Matan. They're changing every day.
I think this is ludicrous what they're doing here.
Yeah, I don't
If it
understand
takes,
it.
if it takes this out, it's a proven steer, go steers hurdle.
Yeah.
To me, I don't understand why he's up here. But he seems to be.
I think he'll win this, by the way. I think he has he's definitely.
Yeah, he's carrying penalties and everything, and
Yeah.
23 miles up there. He's won it here early in the season, so the track's not really much of a concern. But yeah, I think National Spirit looked to be his obvious kind of race, really.
Yeah.
Here, again, 46 bracket, I'm not interested.
No, I do think he'll win.
I
It's
mean,
just
he shows plenty of verve and boot. I mean, would I want to back, albeit he's the classiest horse in the field and he's on the upgrade, do I want to back a horse stepping up to 3 mile the first time in a grade 2 at 46? No,
okay.
don't think so.
Let's go to the Albert Bartlett Prestige Novices Hurdle. I've actually got quite a strong fancy on this. I think if Sam Thomas decides to go with Whiskey Yankee in this, I think he's a serious player. I thought very good last month at Ascot where he beat a fancied Nicky Henderson horse, made his move quite well and got there. Again, look, 3 miles is going to bring out the best of him. Goes in soft ground. I think if he likes a Dalston Lad, reckless spending, I'm not necessarily sure they're all kind of ready for this at this point. I think Whiskey Yankee's a good chance here.
Yeah, he had a decent nick after kind of Steel Ally winning at Warwick in the weekend,
Yeah,
which was a decent enough performance. Yeah, I mean, he does look pretty good. He definitely shapes like a kind of strong steer that day, and could definitely turn up, win this, and be a sleeper. It's a race that I don't really have much opinion on it, but I could see myself falling in that one for sure.
yeah, I think there's a good chance in this. We'll go to the other one, Grand National Trial Handicap. Deafening Silence for the Skeltons is at 3 to 1. Mayertown, Rivers Corner, Get Maker, Richmond Lake, and Monbeg Genius, 12 to 1 bar. I think Mayertown's going here.
He's doubly declared, isn't he? Might turn up at Kelso.
Ah, yeah.
Should be an easier race. 3 miles around 3 mile 4. So yeah, I think if you want to take in an Alton as well, I think I'd be going to
Hmm.
Kelso rather than here. But we'll see what they do. Definitely Silence ran pretty well in the Welsh National at third. That looks reasonable form. The winner's franked it. O'Connell's definitely a young horse going places, and definitely Silence. He's been on a mark where it looks pretty exploitable for some time. You can see him maybe being fairly difficult to beat there. Got time for Rivers Corner, but this is a kind of a little bit of a step up in grade for him. Getmaker needs to get back on track. Richmond League was unlucky here at the last day where he get hampered and should have won in what's probably a similar kind of race, really. Yeah, not again. The favourites get a reasonable chance. Price 3-1 isn't too exciting.
Yeah, well, we'll go to one camp. We've got the Kingwell Hurdle. Golden Age is in here at 5-4. The champion hurdle winner, Alexi 5-2. Potter's Charm and Rubo and 20-1 bar. Golden Ace. I think they went for this last year. We won that. She won this last year, didn't she?
Scrambled in from Burdett Road, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Three
right.
quarters the length.
Yeah. So again, it's kind of the proven formula. Alexi, I think's interesting. Probably need a bit better ground, but I just think Golden Ace if she's back to again, she ran okay behind Sergino, but again, she's probably needed the break. I think she'll probably just win this.
Yeah, a bit of cutting the ground probably overcomes the kind of sharp track nature. I think Kempton wasn't quite her bag last time when she was second at Christmas. Alexi ran quite well top weight in the handicap when he was third, and also took out the Greatwood in style, and that was quite soft ground, so I think he'll handle it. But again, it's just that kind of mare's allowance. Golden Ace might just pick him off. Potter's Charm, if it does get bad ground, he comes into it a little bit, but I think he improved for kind of 2.5. He's no 2 mile in my book. Rubo's one that definitely needs good ground. The rest are kind of struggling to get involved. So it's tight between the top two. I think market forces and condition of the track is going to kind of be key. But 5-4 Golden Ace against 5-2 Alexi. Again, that looks like it's priced up pretty correctly to me.
Mm-hmm. Anything else you like at the weekend? We've obviously got the Red Mills, and I see an entry for your old friend in Perry Pass in the Red Mills Chase. Could this be
Yeah,
the start of the plan for the Ryanair? Because he's 16
well,
to 1 for
all of a
that.
sudden, if the Ryanair becomes a Ryanair and all your best horses do end up in the Gold Cup, he's going to parachute in here with a big chance. He's 12-1 places for that. But I've remembered Mellon come here before and parachute Yanadil and won this and didn't really land a blow in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised that he's reappearing in what's going to be as bad a ground as this, really. If you're thinking you're going to have a tail end spring campaign, I don't think you're going to get starting out in heavy ground in the forefront here. But he was out working with Copac at the board, wasn't he? That's
Mm-hmm.
where they got these kind of quotes out. It's been the plan to have a back end season, and yeah, I mean, if Factifile does go there, if Richie wants to take his chance to go gold as well, yeah, he's definitely all of a sudden bang there, just winning this by just reminding people how good a horse he is, and I do think he is a good horse, and the look of the makeup of the race suggests that you should kind of really take it out, shouldn't he? I mean, it certainly looks a good opportunity to start the season with a win. I'm just a bit surprised we've gone there and bad ground with him, but there's probably nowhere else to really go now that it's that late. So and the ground's not going to get better anytime
No.
soon. But he handles it. I mean, we certainly know he does, and yeah, he's fully interesting. He's definitely going to pay his way to the end of the season. That's for sure. Yeah, be look forward to kind of seeing him really.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we'll get into our Ante-Post selections. We have four each, and we're going to add another one today. Do you want to go first or second?
I'll let you go first.
Okay, I have a 66-1 player in the Albert Bartlett Novices Hurdle, and I'm going to try and explain this as a way that he is he's basically you can't not back him at this point. It's a horse of Henry de Bromhead's. Already got a Henry de Bromhead horse in the list. I'm going to add another. It is in the Albert Bartlett. It's a horse called King's Bucks, 66-1. Just going through his kind of profile for this. So obviously the the trainers won this in the past with Manel Ando, who was a maiden after when obviously was beaten by Allaho before going on to beat Allaho in the Albert Bartlett. This horse is quite a fascinating entry for this because what they've decided to do was they ran him in that Goring bumper that you know I love, where he was second behind Sarfatal, who also has an entry this week, by the way, who's now with Barry Connell. He was second in that, looked as if he needed every yard of the 2 mile, very deep ground. Goes first time out over hurdles in the Grade 2 at Cheltenham behind No Drama this end. And if you want to watch this race back, as I'm sure a lot of No Drama this end backers have, he is there with him at the second last. He just gets outpaced, but he travels on really well to the line. Arguably unlucky not to get up for second, just gets touched off by Heads Up, who'd obviously made the running. I think a really, really good performance that day. Again, Henry de Bromhead's horses were in form. He was very green if you watch the race back. Obviously, as well, he was in the race at Christmas behind You Proof, who's been completely scratched from entries at the festival. But again, went off odds on that day. Really kind of put it to You Proof as well. You Proof, again, just doesn't for a bit of toe. And I think the better I think the bigger the trip, I think the more likely is going to be to get it. It was fourth in Galway behind each to their own, where the ground is way too quick, and 2 miles is not his bag at all. He needs every yard of 3 miles. Won a point to point in December 2024, but obviously bought by the July Flower colours. I just can see this horse being that kind of profile where they really kind of go with him for the Albert Bartlett. Might not be first choice because they do have Fruit de Mer, who was third at the Laurels of Naas. I think this boy, though, they put him in that race at the Big Westerner one last year. And again, he was beaten by a horse like You Proof, who was quite good. I think he would have been a player in this as well if they'd kept him. Got a wee report by Henry de Bromhead in his stable touring racing TV to say that he is going here, and it was a little bit green, but he's a really nice horse and a horse for the future. I think 66 to 1, you can get 50 to 1 non-run or no bet if you want that insurance. I think the way the Albert Bartlett's going, you've got a really short price favourite. I think you can take a wee each way flyer. You'll get more places on the day. I think this boy will go kind of forgotten about in the market, and I think 66 to 1 just now. Henry de Bromhead's horse is improved for Cheltenham. I'm glad he's not going to get around before then, and I think this is a potential each way player for the festival.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think beating horses can get overlooked, and it feels like a kind of Manila Indo year, doesn't it? Where it could be kind of really wide open. There could be a lot of runners, and there could be a lot of runners in all of these novice hurdles. But
Yeah.
there doesn't seem to be any kind of, still a month out, but there doesn't seem to be much ducking and diving at the moment. So, yeah, and yeah, he's shaped well in behind some decent horses, but particularly the No Drama this end race, and the Bromhead's horses could kind of go missing a little bit into the winter, and then they can come back. And the fact that they've kind of committed to it is definitely a good sign. And yeah, it's definitely one of the better races historically. Look at the kind of SPs of winners in this. Like the Nice Guy was like 18 to 1. Horses like that can easily pop up and win it. So yeah, he's definitely wouldn't put anybody off having him on side at a big price.
Yeah, and I was kind of keeping my powder dry because I was thinking, right, Henry de Bromhead stable tour. I didn't read it before. I was like, last week I'm going to put this horse up, and then I saw a stable tour. I'm like, it's going to be very typical that it doesn't get mentioned, but it was mentioned in the stable tour, which is
It's always a plus, isn't it? You
always a
rather want them mentioned than not, because if they're not, then they're not there, are they?
I
Really?
think Fruit de Mer's the number one, but I think as well the year Manel Ando on it, I think he had something shorter that year because Rachel Blackmore rode Manel Ando, but I can't remember. I think there was something shorter that he had, so it's not impossible that he does go close with second string. And again, we don't know what kind of Fruit de Mer's like, and I just think go back and watch the No Drama this end race, where again a lot of people will because they'll be looking at No Drama this end. He's with him to the second last. He's travelling just as good, and No Drama this end's class just kicks in. But this boy just goes to the line very very well. Heads upset a ridiculous gallop that day. It was deep ground, and I think if you watch that back, I think you would be going. I was in the old course, go to the new course. I think less hurdles to jump. Jump's fine, but I just think a more kind of galloping track, I think will do him no harm.
Yeah, the fact that he's an early side of it, Cheltenham, means he can travel over and handle it. So yeah, no, I would definitely be off. I think he's definitely interesting in a race where I don't think there's I'm not a really big Dr. Steinberg fan. So I mean, yeah, he's definitely interesting. I don't think the British films is too impressive either on that. So yeah, no, he definitely a squeak in a yard that can absolutely map one out really well.
Who have you got? What's your next pick to add to your portfolio?
Kind of similar kind of wild price theory, really. 50 to 1 in the tunnels, and it's Road Exile, Gordon Elliott.
Okay.
Um, the recent post able to mention that they're leading, thinking of running this fell in the tunnels. I definitely think he's worth having a spin at it. Beaten in his main hurdle at Down Royal, where he normally kind of targets him quite well for, but he left them a bit off that day. He was third, his favourite. Just seasonal run, but he did bump into Blake that day. He then was ran second the Royal Bond, so that was probably quite a harder task. Then he beat Copacabana by 3/4 of a length in that Navan race that Caldwell Potter won for him a few years previously. Copacabana's out for the season, but third was I Started the Joke, who was narrowly beaten for Big Gamble. The fourth was a stablemate, Coyote Spirit, that came out and won at Navan this weekend. So there's a bit of substance to that. It's a maiden that he kind of quite likes, and it's a big kind of 26 runner affair where he looked pretty good, and I thought it was one of the best maidens we've seen all year. He then made the misstep of going to Punchestown the Moscow Flyer, where he just hated the track. Hated the track up front, 2 miles off ground, constantly on the turn. He had to make all in a 3 runner, did he race, and he just hated it. But the fact that he was backed in strongly 8 to 11 suggests that they think this is a high class horse, and it's the way he's been campaigned. He's been campaigned as if he's a top novice for Gordon Elliott. I mean, he's gone kind of like his maiden hurdle initially at Down Royal. That was a race Envoy Allen went to.
Mm-hmm.
The races like Sam Crow went to, Caldwell Potter at Navan. Those kind of races. He's put some decent horses, speedier horses, into Moscow Flyers recently. Of old. He's now rated 134. He would have a bit to find, but the tunnels is definitely going to be a much more suitable race for him. And I really don't think there's anything that's screaming out kind of 140 plus in that race at the moment. So I think he can improve completely out of recognition for being in a bigger field like he was in his maiden. Not being out in front for that long in the longer trip, he's going to be a good future chaser as well. The longer trip's definitely going to suit him. And the fact that they're kind of leaning slightly towards Ballyfad running the Supreme means that it frees up a Jigginsdown horse here. I know they've got other irons in the fire. Skylight Hustle's going to be much more popular in horses like that, so he's probably going to go there as a third stringer. But I think this horse is a lot better than he's been able to show so far. He's got a lot of potential, and I think he's been highlighted as one. And the fact that he did get a mention in the recent post stable tour, with Gordon Elliott's got kind of a lot of these kind of like 6 or 7 of these in the background that could be pretty useful horses. He was the one that he kind of gave a positive mention to as kind of being no kind of back number in a tunnels if they go this way. So yeah, he'd have a nice break coming in fresh. And I think he'd acquit himself quite well, and he's always been very well respected in the market where he's gone off. So yeah, and his form at Navan's working out really well. I think Punchestown you can put a line through, and I think that's the only reason why he's that big, because just 2 miles was just ridiculously silly sharp graded race, and it didn't work out. But just the way he was heavily back that day was quite
Back well,
striking against Sober, who's not high up in people's lists, but you wouldn't surprise him if he ran all right in a Supreme. The way it can unfold. He's got a lot of back class in the flat and stuff like that. So he's more of a national hunt type. While I just think the flat class and flat speed and the nature of the race really just played into Sober's strengths and counted against Road Excel. So yeah, he'll have a good kind of £10 to find turning up, but it's an open year. He's 50 to 1. 40 to 1 non-runner no bet if you're inclined that way, but I'm not really a non-runner no bet fan, so 50s is fine. And a bit like the Bartlett, where you can see like a lot of horses turning up for this, and I think the nature of the race would suit them. So yeah, Road Excel for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're on the board again with Road Exile for Callum and King's Box for myself. We'll be back next week. We'll take a look, obviously, at the racing over the weekend and start kind of previewing what is coming up at the Cheltenham Festival. Mate, always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks again.
Right.
See you later.
So we'll see you all soon. Thank you.